Okay, hello again, Blues fans. Corgi here and Murray. Today's MonBlues Podcast is a School of Hard Knocks special. We're very, very fortunate to have two great people on today, Rosa and Callum, who work in School of Hard Knocks. You've probably seen it on the telly, on Sky Sports and that, with Scott Quinnell and Will Greenwood. I don't know which one is which here, or which one would like to be Scott Quinnell, which one would like to be Will Greenwood, I don't know. But we'll go through and we'll do that as we fire on. But Murray's going to ask them some questions to start off with. We're going to do the bag as always, and then we'll round it off. So Murray, take it away, mate.
So, Callum, we'll start with you. What exactly does School of Hard Knocks do, and what does it stand for?
So School of Hard Knocks has two programmes that we run across sort of UK. So we're based in Wales, we're based in London, and obviously in Scotland as well. One avenue that we work is with adults. So we work with unemployed adults just to try and see what we can do to help them get a bit fitter, happier, healthier, and hopefully back into work or re-engaging with education or just moving forward in some sort of capacity in their life, taking positive steps to make some positive changes in their lives. And that is working with adults that are over the age of 18, and we have no upper age limit. The other avenue that we work is in schools. So we're very lucky that we work with a number of schools in the Fife area in what we do. Now, with the schools, we work with kids on a weekly basis. And we kind of cover, each time they're in there a week, we're kind of covering three avenues with them. So we'll do a bit of physical activity. So both the adults and the schools, what we do is we use rugby. We use rugby as a vehicle and as a tool to help with the goals that they want to kind of achieve in order to kind of make these positive steps. So we'll do an hour of rugby with the kids or a period of rugby with the kids. We'll then do some indoor sessions. Now that can cover anything from body image to nutrition to personal development as a whole. And then what we also do is we'll do some mentoring with them as well. So we will pull them out. We'll do a lot of stuff that for some of the times the best will in the world, the teachers don't have time to kind of do with a lot of these kids as well. Is actually sit down with them and just sort of have a chat, find out what's going on, what's happening, how can we actually help them. And I think that's the big thing, whether it be our adult work or whether it be our schools work, actually just how can I help is probably a large part of what it is that we do, and that mentor and see what we can do just to help people move forward, whatever it is they want to teach in life.
Yeah, and then Rosa, so why is rugby the sport that School of Hard Knocks has chosen to implement into its programmes?
Okay, so in short, it's because our chief exec is the person who founded the charity and he loves rugby. But really, he felt that there were so many parallels between playing rugby and the skills that are needed in work and in school. And that there's a lot of values in rugby that we all know about that the people that we work with can really benefit from implementing in other areas of their lives. So first of all, Ken, our chief exec, had been a PE teacher and he'd always loved rugby. And then he designed this idea because he was asked by the council in Merseyside to put together a programme. He was no longer a PE teacher at this point, but to put together a programme for unemployed adult males. And they said, look, you're creative. Can you think of something to do with these guys? We've realised that writing CVs up in a windowless room isn't getting us anywhere. And Ken thought, you know what, rugby. And then he thought, actually, if I can get this to work here in Merseyside, where in that part of where he was delivering it, there were no rugby posts at all. Like, that is how little interest there is in rugby there. And he thought, if I can get it to work here, I can get it to work anywhere. And he brought these guys along. And actually, I think that he'll admit that even he was surprised at just how well rugby really does deliver our programme. First of all, you've got controlled confrontation. So you've got people meeting each other in a physical but safe way. And if you can do that on a pitch, then it means that you're able to do that in school and you're able to do that at work as well. It's about having respect, teamwork, commitment, drive. It's, I mean, the obvious one about when you get knocked down, you brush yourself off and you keep going. You're always moving forwards. In rugby, unlike in certain other sports, there really is a position for absolutely everybody. So you can be like quite short and quite wide and not very fast and still be a weapon on a rugby field. Oh, Corgi. I mean, I didn't say that.
I bought a weapon now.
But you know, it is true, like you can have any kind of physique or skill set and be a real asset on a rugby team. And again, that's the same with working for different companies or being at school as well. So
yeah, I think the other side, you guys are obviously a really good example of it at the moment as well, is it can kind of create communities and a sense of belonging and being part of something. I think rugby more so than any other sport, and like I say, you guys testament to it at the moment with a lot of the work that you guys are doing, and across Scotland at the moment, you've seen really good examples of rugby clubs kind of pulling together in order to help their communities. So for us, particularly with the adults that are unemployed and maybe quite isolated, that's a massive part of it as well. Coming into places like the rugby clubs down there and seeing and everybody being part of it is massive as well for getting them outside that isolation.
Absolutely. And I think, like, you know, people talk about their rugby family, don't they? People become so invested in their club. And if we can give that to some of our participants, a lot of the adults that take part and the kids have otherwise been quite socially isolated, maybe felt like they haven't fitted in anywhere and haven't particularly felt welcomed. We have some people who've maybe just come out of a long-term drugs habit. So they come out and the people that they would normally hang out with are still using drugs. And so they're left a little bit lost and lonely. And then we say, well, look, come here, you can join this club just like that. And we find that the clubs that we work with are so welcoming of the people that will refer on to them, even if they can't run or they can't catch. They're still
me again.
But they're still welcome to join that club. So we do encourage that. I mean, when we get good rugby players, that's kind of a byproduct of our course. That's not what we're aiming for. But whether somebody's good or rubbish, we still encourage them to join clubs, and at least 20% do. So I think we've got a couple at Kirkcaldy, haven't we?
Yes, definitely. Certainly the ladies from the course we ran last year, a couple of them stuck around and still a big part of the club and that, you know, and they're real characters, you know, as most rugby players are, you know, they've got something about them that's they're really wily with their thinking and that sort of stuff. It's beautiful to watch them develop as a person, you know, and watching the courses with you guys, it's great. Yeah. I
think as well, it's that, and I've said this many times in various different sort of stuff that we've done, it's that sense of after a game, and I've used this example a lot for different sort of stuff, it's that feeling after you've played, whether it's won, lost, doesn't really matter. It's when everybody's in that clubhouse afterwards, they're sharing some food, they're having a drink, they're having a pint, whatever it is, it's that, even if the people that come on our courses, even if they only live that experience once, it's something we want to give them, because it's quite a valuable and it's quite a powerful thing when you're part of a team and you feel like you've got teammates and you've got people that support you. So even if they only play the one game that's part of us, if they don't go and join a rugby club, great. And so long as they've had that lived experience of actually, this is what it's like, I've gone and done something new, I've pushed myself, I've won, I've lost, it doesn't matter, but here I am with my teammates who, for our guys, whether it's at school, there maybe wasn't people they socialised with before, or the adults, it's people they hadn't met until 8 weeks before, that they've done something quite special, quite remarkable together, and they've shared in that experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then, so what are the different kind of skills that you do cover in your indoor programme for both the schools and the adults programmes?
The adults programme largely kind of focuses around employability. Now, whether that is stuff that they are going to use immediately, if that is their current situation, is that they are looking for a job, or you know, that's where they are in terms of situation and circumstances, or even if they're a little bit further away, like Rosa said, we have people that come with kind of longer term barriers or other stuff they need to work at first. That is things that they need to, that's useful for everybody. Having a really good quality CV is something that everybody leaves with, and it's something we're quite committed in order to making sure that happens as well. We'll cover things like interview skills, so making sure they are comfortable and confident with interviews, and we try and, where possible, take them into a corporate environment for that as well. So we are putting them outside their comfort zone again in order to kind of do that. And just skills and qualities, I think it's really valuable if people understand what it is that they've got to offer. And it's actually looking at everything that people learn. We did a lot of this in the early stages of our courses, and there's so many skills that people develop and people learn that they completely forget about. The first job I ever had was working in a sort of hot food sort of sandwich takeaway shop down in Portobello High Street, and there's things there that I learned that I still use to today that's allowed me to do the job that I do that I completely forget about because it was 10 years or so ago. And it's making sure that everybody understands what it is that they've got to offer. If they've been the ladies course that we ran last year that Corgi mentioned, we had a lot of ladies there that have been a parent for the last 10 plus years, and they think because they haven't worked, they've got nothing to offer, which is complete nonsense. If you think of the skills that parents and mothers learn, it's never ending. And it's kind of, there's so many things that they learn, and it's actually helping them to understand and see a lot of this sort of stuff as well. We'll do a lot of goal setting. So what do they want to achieve and how do we actually go about it? I use the phrase a lot that a goal without a plan is just a dream. Everybody's got goals, everybody's got things we want to do, but how are we going to do it? We all say we want to go and do something, but unless we actually plan that out and figure out how we're ever going to do it, or we're probably going to lack a little bit of motivation and it's a bit pie in the sky. We're quite holistic. We'll do nutrition. Just a lot of them are obviously a lot more active and are thinking about fitness goals and stuff like that. So we want to try and support that through actually what they're eating. It's not to necessarily make them whiter than white, but if we can make some better food choices around what we're doing to kind of help with any of that. And we'll do a little bit on the sort of mental aspect of life as well. So growth mindset, what can we be a little bit more growth mindset about is the situation that we're in, because we're quite fixed mindset and we don't open ourselves up to opportunities, along with fears and barriers. So what's actually holding us back? Do I know what my barriers are and how do I overcome that? That can also be quite a difficult subject and conversation for some people as well. And the school is much the same, very, very holistic. We'll do, like I said, body image, which obviously with kids at the moment, we work with both male and female groups. So within the school, so body image is a massive part of it for both genders. Again, nutrition, one of the big things that we do there is things like sugars and drink, how many sugars are in a can of Coke and stuff like that, so that we're a little bit more aware of that sort of stuff. And just general sort of personal development, how can we change maybe their mindset a little bit? A lot of the kids that we work with, again, have further barriers, whether it be behavioural, whether it be attendance, whether it's just lacking a bit of self-esteem and confidence, and how can we actually just help and make life a little bit easier for them with whatever that might kind of be as well, and just make some better choices at times.
Yeah, and then Rosa, so what are the different kind of people that you help? Like, what different backgrounds do they tend to come from? Is it just unemployed or?
Well, it's very varied, but our criteria is to work with unemployed people. So it'll be a male group or a female group. We very rarely do mixed, and the criteria will be you are aged 18 plus and you are unemployed, and that is it. Right, so you get people from all over the world. We've had so a lot of these employability courses can only work with people who are signing on at the job centre, because that's the funding that they get is through the job centre or through the government. But we don't work like that. So we've had people who are asylum seekers. We've had people who have just been made redundant from a bank or something like that, and then we have people who've never worked a day in their life. We get 18-year-olds. The oldest, I think, is 65, Callum.
Yeah, we're two 65-year-olds.
Yeah, and we've had a few people in their 60s, both male and female, who take up contact rugby for the first time now. And before anybody gets terrified about how unsafe that is, we are very, very, very careful with them. But it is pretty inspiring to see. So really it's a big mix. The job centres can refer them on, but we also work with charity partners like, for example, Women's Aid or Social Bite, who can refer people to our programme. It's not compulsory for anybody. They meet us, they come along, they give it a go. If they like it, they'll stick it out. So yeah, male, female, parents, people who've worked, people who've never worked. We've had one guy who had a PhD, so he actually got his PhD during the course, and he was in his late 20s. So he is now, we were like, well, we can't really help you that much with your specific career, because you know a bit more about that than us.
Your doctorate in chemistry is kind of beyond us a little bit.
So yeah, I mean, actually just this week we had a message from one of the guys who did our first ever course, which was 3 years ago now. And at that time he'd taken a job. I can't remember what he'd done, but he hadn't worked for years and years and years. He was technically homeless with his missus and his kid. We managed to get him into housing, got my hair cut, that did a world of difference. And we just saw him improve. He took some hospitality work, but even just last week he messaged us and said, Callum and Rosa, I just want to say that I've just taken on a job I've always wanted in a hospital in Glasgow. And it's because I did that course that I had the confidence to do it. So I just wanted to say thank you. And we were like, whoa, I mean, 3 years later. So pretty impactful. In the schools, briefly, the teachers will choose the pupils who take part. So at each school we'll have at least one group, which will be about 20 pupils, usually in S2 or S3, girls or boys, as Callum said. Sometimes the school will choose the young people because they've got multiple barriers to education, like behavioural problems or problems at home, which are very often related. But sometimes it's just young people who would benefit from the programme and maybe lacking a bit of confidence or a bit of direction. It's quite a big mix in there, and the teachers will choose those pupils for us.
Yeah, and then another big part of School Hard Knocks is the fundraising aspect, and we've seen that you've had quite a few events on recently and a few up and coming. So I wondered if you could.
Tonight, I'm joining the quiz tonight, so better be bloody easy.
It's not tonight. You can't join the quiz tonight. It's
I thought it was tonight.
No! Oh my word! It might be on the day that this is put on your social media. So
right.
check our social media. We are doing an online quiz every fortnight at the moment because everybody's obviously stuck at home, so nobody's got any excuse not to join in. For all ages. So yeah, online pub quiz. In general, we'll do a big kind of meal event every year. We're quite flexible with it. We sort of see what works. In London, we do a huge big lunch that's incredibly expensive per head and raises us about 100 grand every year, which is amazing. I don't charge as much per head as they do up in Scotland because I don't think anyone would buy a ticket. But our next quite sort of exciting one will be a dinner in November. Should the Scotland and Japan match go ahead at Murrayfield and the Japanese team come over in November, we're going to do a dinner a couple of nights before, and we've got Jamie Joseph, the Japan coach, is confirmed to come along and chat to everybody about it, and that'll be hosted by Rory Lawson, so that'll be pretty cool. But actually, watch the space. Definitely want to do a fundraiser in Fife before long, because actually at least half of our work in Scotland is done in Fife at the moment, and we haven't done an event here, so that is on the cards. It should be kind of family-friendly meal, not too expensive, lots of fun. So I'll keep posting.
Yeah, I think the big thing with our fundraising is we want to have that fun aspect of it. You know, we all know what charity sort of stuff can be like, and we obviously try and do the serious bits as well. But we've obviously the quiz. We've got the online quiz at the moment. That, like Rosa said, every fortnight. We've got a kids one, I think, next week as well. So I think it's the 4th of May, if I'm correct with that. So that's aimed at, is it 6 to 12-year-olds, Rosa? That sort of age, sort of demographic. For obviously folk that are stuck at home with the kids and things like that at the moment. We've tried to get down to Edinburgh City Sevens over the last couple of years as well, and just be visible and do a bit of bucket shaking and different stuff like that as well. We had a really successful one for the World Cup where we were at the Caledonian Brewery, and it you know, we try and do things slightly different. And I think that was quite a different event where we were in the Cali Brewery, which you can't get into. It's not available for folks just to come in and have a pint there, but able to offer, you know, food, drinks, watch the game, have a raffle. You know, we like to try and hopefully try and be a little bit different with some of the stuff as well and make it as fun as possible.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so Corgi, do you want to...
Right, folks, are you ready for the bag? You know, this bag is now becoming quite famous. I think it's going to get a star in the Walk of Shame in some days. So here's the bag in question. So Kirkcaldy Rugby Club bag, you see there, Corgi George.
All right.
Lovely initials, Callum, wouldn't you think?
100%.
So within the bag there are several objects, hopefully related to the School of Hard Knocks or something that you've seen maybe when you've been doing your courses and that sort of stuff. We're going to produce an object, and I'd like you maybe to shout out somebody that's involved either in School of Knocks or rugby player or one of your clients and that sort of stuff. And when you do that, I'll maybe ask you to expand a little bit on the story if that's okay. So without any further ado, I'm going to go in.
Rosa, you're looking slightly terrified at this moment.
I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen.
So you should be.
Brilliant.
So you should be. You know you can trust me. Okay, so I've got a wristwatch here. It's a 24-hour wristwatch. So if I said 24 hours to you, what would that mean to School of Hard Knocks?
Pain.
Eh?
Pain for me, I think.
Pain. Go and expand on that. What do you mean pain? Did you do something for 24 hours?
Well, yeah, it was actually 30 hours.
She's got it. Hold on, she's got it.
Yeah. There must be lag on this video call. There's got a time lapse there.
It's because we're in Fife. We wind up still.
Yeah. Put another 50p in, Rosa. So yeah, last summer I very foolishly. This was another one of Ken, our CEO, one of his genius ideas, where we actually took the world record for the longest game of contact rugby. So I think the timer stopped at 30 hours and about 28 minutes or something like that. Yeah. Where we played rugby against another great charity in Wooden Spoon on what was the hottest day of the year, last bank holiday in August. So we worked on a 4 hours on, sort of 2 hours off ratio through the night, continually kind of playing a bit of kind of contact, scraggy type sort of rugby. I think it's fair to say I was not in the greatest physical state afterwards. I couldn't straighten my legs for 3 days after playing for, I think I calculated it, I think I was about 21 to 22 hours or something like that of actual on-pitch time. So yes, that just is nothing but pain that kind of brings back to. But It was a fantastic thing to do. It really raised exposure. We made a huge amount of money off it. It was a great thing to be part of and to say that you've done as well.
It's uncanny because the time you played is my Bronco time this season. Okay, so obviously next thing out is Tiger Balm. So who's always injured within your group? Who's always on the medical table and that sort of stuff? Tell me who just lames about when they should actually be working.
Oh, I think it's fair to say there's probably one on every course.
All right.
There's always one on every course that tries to get out of stuff, has a bit of an injury. There's always something. And there's an element of truth in it because a lot of people are quite inactive before they come to us. And then there's quite a few where then when the running starts that tend to then there's a bit of a twinge in the hammy or something like that.
I've seen them doing a Bronco the last mail course they had here, before we had to call it off. And I'm seeing a few people looking at me going, a what? I said, you'll love it.
yeah. Again, it's part of getting them outside the comfort zone. Again, there's one person that springs to mind that we had last summer who was of the older variety, and bless him, he never stopped, and he plugged away. And we were really worried about him in the first kind of couple of weeks because thinking, is this really safe? Because his leg kept giving out, his knee kept going. But bless him, he plugged away. And I made the joke at the end at their graduation. I think Rosa was a bit like, I'm just maybe a bit too close to the bone, but I had sort of said that if he was a horse, he'd have been glue by now. I think at that stage it was...
That's outrageous.
It was a bit...
Trained in jeans and a leather jacket most days as well.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and he just kept going. And I was thinking it's probably the most humane thing to do is to just kind of put him out his misery. But bless him, he plugged away and he kept going, which is good. And I suppose it testifies to his character.
Fantastic.
We've had various people. We always do an award at the end of the course, but we do an award ceremony in general. So we'll do greatest improvement, all rounder, most helpful. We'll change it each time, but we always do the Kit Kat award for the person who takes the most break. And everybody always knows before we announce who it is who it's going to be. And we had one boy on an Edinburgh course who he would just, as soon as it came to going out, it just this terrible limp, you could really get it. But then the leg would change. You could never
love it pieces. I think at the Kirkcaldy course I made the dizzy height of Uncle Corgi, didn't I, to the girls course. I was really happy with that. That really pleased me. Right, all right. Rosa, I think this may be one for you. Could give us a story with regard to this one. So we've got hair clippers. So barbers, clippers. You talked about something about a barber earlier on. So
I did, yeah. So we're going to give a little shout out here to our very dear friends, Revolution Barbers in Kirkcaldy, which a lot of people, they're very popular, aren't they? And they are such good friends to us because every time we do a course in Fife, we asked them on our first Fife course, which is in Dunfermline, we said, would you maybe come along and give some haircuts to the guys? It was a male course. And the next day they had mock interviews at the Sky headquarters office. Yeah. And we get them suited and booted and they go along and they have to try out all the new interview skills that they've got. And for a lot of them, it's quite overwhelming. Yeah, it really is. But we all know that when you look the part, you feel the part. And so Mark at Revolution said, yeah, sure, I'll come in and I'll do it. And he's done it. And after that, he was like, I am now your official hairdresser.
Yeah, he's the loveliest, scary-looking guy I've ever come across. He's just phenomenal. I've come across a lot of scary-looking guys, in my job and my rugby,
Job as a policeman. He just coincidentally has Hard Knocks tattooed
in his finger as
well.
Yeah, he actually sponsors one of our girls on the ladies' team as well, but that's a different story on that. But he's just he's the nicest guy I've come. And the trouble is, we try and give him free tickets to come to the games, but it's a Saturday afternoon and he's giving it all forth in his shop every day, I was going to say, this is really clean, this bit, because as you can tell, this is probably a 3 or something, and this is 3 weeks growth. So there's no chance I've ever used this one, But no, Revolution, it's hilarious. It's hilarious to see him come in. What a difference he makes to people.
We did a course in Glenrothes, and he came down. It was actually Thanksgiving, and he came down that morning of Thanksgiving. And obviously, being American from California, it's a big thing for him. And that's what he said. He was like, "It's Thanksgiving, but I'm not missing this." So he came down, did the haircut in the morning, then went home and had his Thanksgiving dinner. And he's quite a remarkable bloke. I think he does it every Christmas. He goes and gives free haircuts to the homeless on Christmas Day and stuff like that.
What a man! What
He's some man.
I'm even going to try and get him on one of these one day, and maybe get him down to the podcast. I think his stories would be amazing to hear about stuff. Right, so we're into the second section now. Oh, here's one. So I've got a camera.
Oh my word!
What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say that the person you're referring to will appear any minute.
Okay.
I'm self-isolating at my mum and dad's house, and I was like, Mum, I'm going upstairs, and you've not to interrupt me. Oh, I never interrupt you. Well,
I remember walking in and the woman's going, this camera being shoved in my face. And, who the hell is this?
No. So my mother is genuinely quite a good photographer. I mean, it is actually what she does. This is her thing. She makes short films, but she insists on doing all of the School of Hard Knocks photography, which we're really grateful for because we get brilliant pictures. But for me, bloody hell, it is a headache. Hello, I'm here. I need a coffee, and Callum is forever running away from her because Callum not like getting his photograph taken.
You're amazing.
She's in her 70s, and it's a digital camera, and so it can be a little.
Yeah, we need the flashbangs back again. That's right.
Something is very, very wrong here. Oh, I've not got the right lens, all that kind of thing. But the end results are great, and yeah, she's kind of part of the team.
Just amazing to see her when she's round about. She's such a character. She lightens up your day. She's a lovely, lovely, lovely. And pass my regards on to listen. Right, well, that's the challenge over. What I'm going to do now is produce a British Lions top. So what I'd like you to do, maybe you've got so many people in School of Hard Knocks who play professional rugby and been involved in the Scotland setup and that sort of stuff. So maybe, is there somebody who you think that helps the School of Hard Knocks that will maybe make it on next year's tour across to South Africa?
It's a very good question.
Well, thank you very much. The rest have been crap, like, have they?
No, that one's properly stumped me. Yeah, I think we're very lucky. We've had a lot of folk that have been involved, whether in some capacity, either coming along and actually taking part and stuff. Obviously, I know you've had Murray on here.
Yeah.
Murray is a bit of a go-to guy for us with anything that we kind of want and need. Such a big character.
Nicest guy in the world as well.
Yeah, and he's great to have down. So it maybe wasn't his forte, but we got him down as a guest coach at Edinburgh City Sevens last year. Thinking he'll just come down for
he's a natural at Sevens, aye.
Yeah, he is. I'm not going to say what he's natural of seven of, but
all seven people.
But he was great. He was the master organizer, keeping them all in check. So he's come down and done a lot. Mark Bennett's come down and done a bit of guest coaching and things like that, which is fantastic to have him.
Great guy.
Especially when they can bring an Olympic medal, always looks a little bit good. Even if you don't know rugby, that still looks impressive to everybody. And we've had a lot of kit donations in the past as well. Blair Kinghorn's donated some kit. We had a lot of boots recently from Ali Price. And I think the one person I would say that's probably got a good chance of getting on the Lions tour that we haven't done a huge amount with, but he's done a little bit. I think he gave himself up, so to speak, as an auction prize at a black tie event we had with Hamish Watson. He's somebody that I would say has got a very good chance of kind of going down to South Africa. With that, he's probably somebody. I can't remember what the auction price was. At lunch or something like that with him that he'd originally given up, and obviously we had
Stuart Hogg as well in the end was
lunch
as well.
So that's sort of, and we've used Hamish's his company Rex Club, the hats. We had some hats made by them as well. So it's a slightly strenuous link, but probably Hamish is up there.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think especially the surface out in the altitude, and Hamish is obviously a fit guy and gets over the top of the ball. And we were talking to the referees about the removal of the crocodile roll in rugby. So Hamish over the top now, there's a real threat in defence, turning defence into attack in rugby. That was a really rugby thing. Sorry about that. I'm getting off the topic here, which is School of Hard Knocks. But guys, that's the bag. I thank you very much for that. I've been very fortunate to see the School of Hard Knocks and do bits and bobs. I play at it really, but I want you to keep doing what you're doing because you make so many differences in people's lives. Keep going, guys. It's just beautiful to watch. I'll pass you back to Murray now before I get all emotional. Obviously, I'm not like that. I'll pass you back to Murray and he's going to round the session off. Get right in about their bones now, Murray. I've had an easy time up tonight.
So, we'll begin to round off now. So, what would make your life easier on the School of Hard Knocks courses? Like, what thing would you change to make your life easier?
Not to make my life easier per se, but I think if we can just get as many people as possible on these courses, one, it does make it easier because it's more fun. The more people we have, the more interaction, the more banter, the more people we can help. So for me, it wouldn't necessarily make my life easier. It would probably have the opposite effect, but just in terms of an enjoyment level and for what I want to get from what it is that we do, just as the more people, the merrier. Certainly in the adults programs where I do the majority of my work, it would just be fantastic. And we, sadly, due to the current situation, we had to stop a course that we did have running with you guys in Kirkcaldy, where we had sort of 30 guys come along, and we just kind of got into the end of week 2, and we could really kind of see something going with them. So yeah, if we can continue with that sort of stuff, with those sort of numbers and the great folk that we've been able to work with, is certainly something that I would like to do. Like I say, it would make my life probably more difficult, but in the long run, it's something I prefer.
My answer to that would be, well, first of all, that actually running our courses at Kirkcaldy, it is the easiest place for us to run our courses in many ways, because Corgi will get up whenever we ask him to and let us in, and he'll unlock the door for us, or occasionally leave us the keys if we need to leave a little bit later. And we started to do introductory sessions at Kirkcaldy Rugby Club before the course started this time, which we haven't done before. Sounds quite simple, but it meant that the people who were going to take part had actually walked into the rugby club, seen it, which reduced a kind of fear barrier for them. They felt like they knew what they were coming into more when the course actually started. For me, I do all the fundraising in Scotland for the charity. So always, the more money we've got, the easier it is for us to deliver our work, and the less energy we need to spend on finding the money to make it happen. We found that in Fife, we've never not completely filled a male course, which is absolutely brilliant. So there are people there that need it, and there's going to be even more people on the other side of the coronavirus, because the unemployment levels are going to hit a real high. So, I mean, just having the funding to do what we do best makes it easier. But, that is my job.
So we'd just like to say thank you very much for coming on the podcast, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having us and for the support that we've had. It's been great to kind of do these sort of things with you guys. Like Rosa says, it's made our lives a lot easier working with you guys as well. And obviously I touched on earlier about the sort of community stuff, and it's fantastic to see what you guys are doing with regards to the food bank, and even doing stuff like this to stay connected. It's something we see a great sense of when we're there as well, with the people that we work with. It's feeling part of that community and feeling part of a rugby family.
Right.
Yeah, love it.
Thanks, guys.